well, and kind of mentioned you should look into UT. Did my research, found out like Austin is to this day like my favorite city in America. It's an unreal place to be. Like you get that aspect of being in a large state school, but you don't miss out on the academics. It's one of the best schools. And you don't get put in a random city, which was big for me. Like I didn't want to be in a city that you might have to take a connecting flight to. It's easy to get to. It's a quick 2.5 hour. There's multiple nonstop flights a day. Also, not to mention the weather's incredible. I'd say it's a little similar to LA. It could get hotter it gets hotter for sure in the summer. It gets a little colder in the winters, but more or less is much better than your Michigan, Wisconsin freezing tundra. And then there's a lot of stuff. There's ACL, there's South by Southwest, there's big restaurants, there's stuff to do, which was like big for me. I wanted to go to a big city, but I didn't want to go to a private school. So I guess, and then my visit kind of sold me showed me a good time for sure.
Yeah, I completely agree with Elliot. I also wanted a big school. I personally was deciding between there and USC and kind of thought that it was a good opportunity to. I always knew that I was going to come back to LA, and I think it's a good opportunity to branch out when you have the chance for a couple of years. Also, I don't know how many of you guys are seniors or juniors, but hopefully, and if you do, get in and have the opportunity to come visit Austin at some point, it's an incredible city. I knew nothing about it whatsoever coming in. Visited, and the city really sells itself. There's a ton. It's beautiful. Weather's amazing. You don't realize how much like having good weather matters. It's kind of. I have a sister up like in Michigan, and it's cold. So that, as little as it sounds, makes a big difference. And then again, like he said, academically, it's up there, and it's an amazing city to be going to school at.
For me, I think the biggest thing that sold me, I was really not sure about UT at the beginning. Like I was like, okay, Texas is, it's crazy, Texas. I had no idea. I didn't know anyone from Milken who was going. I didn't know anyone who was older than me who had gone, up to like 3 or 4 years older. I had no idea, anyone had gone there. So when I visited, I didn't know what to expect really, but it was instant hospitality. I was Jewish. They knew that. So the fraternity that I'm currently in, a few guys who were freshmen at the time showed me around. They took me in. And, I did that as well as the campus tour and whatnot, and kind of saw a little bit more about the city. I learned more about the city, and I was pretty much hooked when I realized, between the temperature, we were just talking about it earlier. It's like 90 degrees there now. It's not Michigan. It's not a Wisconsin. It has a lot of the same characteristics in terms of, it's a big public school, big sports, big classes, but there definitely still is a Jewish community. I just didn't know that at first. But after my visit, I had a better understanding that it actually did exist there. And that's something that I was excited about.
So we have, as you could see, our email is slowly going out to your entire class. So more juniors are coming in. Maddie, or Liana, you had a question?
Yeah, I have a question. How is it going from Milken, which is so sheltered and such small classes, to such a big public school?
I can answer that. It's a transition. I think it's a transition that, in my opinion, is a little bit overrated. No offense, Mr. Mancuda. It's something that, like, these big state schools, they have ways of accommodating to that transition in a sense, and what I want to also reiterate is that that's more of a freshman year, sophomore year problem that you have with your general eds like chemistry, government, economics. These big classes that no matter what your major is, you need to fulfill that requirement to get a degree. So you have those big classes, and it's on you. You definitely get more responsibility as a student in college. You don't 9 times 10 for those classes you don't have to go, and so it's on you to be the student that you are, and to take initiative to go if you need to, and to take notes. And also what I want to say about how they accommodate that is they have TA sessions. So you're part of this one cohort, which is your big lecture hall, which may have 300 people in the biggest scenario, but then you also have like a smaller group that you get assigned to, which is more mandatory, where you have like a TA who you meet with once a week and you go over the lecture material that the professor is teaching you. So I guess in that sense, you kind of get around that transition. I think it's a learning experience. In life, you're not going to always be in a small group, and you kind of have to take initiative. And then also, like, as you become a junior and a senior, your classes on average are like 20 people now, because they get more major specific. So I guess in a sense, as classes become more important, they become smaller and smaller.
Yeah, I would say that the biggest, downfall on my end, and something that I regret that I didn't do, was reaching out to someone who is older than me, prior to enrolling in these classes. Like, you have resources right here who are willing to help. We're on this call because we want people to go to UT because we had a great experience. So, I would just say reach out to alumni of Milken, reach out to older people, because we're more than happy to talk to you about, what courses work for us right out of the gate, how to get registered, because you really need to stay on top of it, because no one's going to tell you you have to do this or that or whatever, because no one's holding you accountable. You have to do it yourself. There is a bit of a transition, but I'd say it only happens, freshman year, maybe 1 or 2 semesters. And then after that, the registration becomes easy. You're used to it. The classes, like Elliot said, they start really big, and then they slowly funnel, to major specific classes. So you get used to it in time. The discussion courses are really good for voicing your opinion. You're not afraid to really raise your hand in a 20-person class, but maybe you don't want to say something in a 300-person class. So you have that opportunity, once a week, that you have to be in that class, and you're more engaged in that way.
Oh, also, I don't remember if was Lishma a thing in high school or middle school?
High school.
I can't remember. Okay, whatever. Lishma, pretty much office hours. Every single class from freshman year to senior year has their professor also has office hours, which is like posted on the syllabus, and that was like my go-to for classes that I was confused on. It's also a good way to get a relationship with the professor when there's 300 other students. They'll post like 2 to 3 hours a week in different times that they're available for office hours, and you can go to their office and ask them any questions you have from whatever. And that's a huge help also.
Completely agree with Elliot. Office hours are huge.
Yeah.
You have no idea how many grades that I've had that were like on the borderline, but because I showed up to office hours like semi-consistently and had a relationship with the professor or with the TA, they tend to give you the benefit of the doubt if they know you. If you're just another name that they're grading papers, they're less inclined to help you out. But that's huge. Regardless of whatever school you go to, it's something that I would highly recommend you guys utilize.
Yeah, that's everywhere.
I would also say, and anybody else can chime in, one benefit of a big school, or when you think about your 4 years, you could always make a big school small. You can't make a small school big. So that's not to say don't go to a small school. If you don't feel like you need a big environment, or know you don't want a big environment, then that's totally fine. But you could find a niche within a place like UT. I think all 4 boys mentioned being involved in Greek life. You could be involved in Jewish life, a business fraternity, a community service organization, a political organization, you name it. You could make a bigger place like UT a little bit smaller if you need to.
Yeah.
Completely agree.
Good. Other questions? We have some other people who joined us. I have a question. What about the idea, one of you was talking about being, Jewish life came up, and you were talking about being at a place with a lot of non-Jews. What about being at a place with a lot of non-Californians and being at a place that's 90% Texans? How was that as a new reality?
So that was eye-opening. Definitely one of the big reasons why I love this school a lot is I like back to what I was saying, how I was thinking about, I almost went to Michigan or Wisconsin, and then when I got into UT, it kind of turned all my decisions up all over itself, and I had to figure it out. But when I visited Michigan and Wisconsin, not to talk bad about those schools, they're great schools, fun schools. You'll have a great time if you go there. But when I visited, I just coming straight from like as a senior in high school, I knew so many people that went there. And whether it be from, I was originally from New York. I moved when I was little, but just people from New York, people from LA, all Jewish. I felt like I knew people already, which was a good feeling. It made me feel welcomed from the start. But I almost felt like I was cheating on the whole aspect of I want to get away from LA and meet new people. And then when I went to UT, it's kind of a little shocking at first, but it's in the end, it's amazing. You know, like I have friends from all over the country now. Like I go to New York, Miami, Chicago, LA, and San Francisco. You know, like Colorado, all these different types of places. I have friends to visit, places to stay, and also just having people from all walks of life. Like knowing like all these the Texans are hilarious. Like you want to like the Texans are great. You know, like in the beginning, like obviously you kind of hang out with the out-of-staters because at the end of the day, the school is, I don't know what it is now, but when we applied, maybe 10% out of state. The rest were all Texans. So like at first the out-of-staters are the odd ones out. We all became friends with each other. But then it's a very like Southern hospitality is a real thing. Everyone mingles, everyone becomes friends with each other. And I mean, I love my Texas friends. They're hilarious. They're different. Some of them are the same. And I think that's an awesome part of the school, just having different types of people that are not from the circle that you've been raised in.
Yeah, there's definitely a culture shock at first. There's no question about it. You know, something as simple as going to a tailgate, or even just walking to class, you can see by the attire of what people wear. It's a lot different than, you know, Adidas sweatpants and a t-shirt to school, like at Milken. You know, people are legitimately wearing cowboy boots to football games, girls included.
And you will too. You will also.
Yeah, 100%.
It's part of the culture, and like you'll love it.
It's an experience for sure. I'm sure Elliot's worn his fair share of cowboy hats at games.
Oh, that's me and Ross right there. Yeah.
So, but it's something that's like entirely like just so different. You wouldn't experience it at a different school. But it's something that, you know, you can look back on, like laugh a little bit that you know, dress the way that you did. Even going, you know, downtown on a Thursday night with your friends. But it's what Elliot was saying. It's really different than what you'd experience in LA in a good way. Like you look back at that time and you're just like, wow, that was incredible. And then you can always come back to LA like I did. And, you know, a lot of the same, you know, style of talking, just living life. There's a different lifestyle in California versus Texas, but I'm glad that I had the experience there. That was so different. And now I get to come back here, you know, having experienced that.
Yeah, the best part about the culture shock there too is that like everyone buys into it. Like if you asked me a few years ago if I ever would have seen myself wearing like cowboy boots with a suit, I would have been like, hell no. But once you see like everyone get into it, everyone like having a good time doing what they do there, it really makes everything more fun and like
100%. It's not the same. If you go to UT, you're going to be walking around in cowboy boots all the time. That's not the type of message we're trying to send. It's definitely not like that. Although there are people who walk around in jeans and cowboy boots.
Makes sense.
It's like the whole like it's just like the school spirit thing. Like to games, people
Football
like,
games.
we'll wear cowboy boots. You know, I'm not going to be walking around campus with cowboy boots. But I mean, it's just cool. It's like different. And like it's like that's the fun part. Cooper said, "How'd you find the city life in Austin compared to LA?" I mean, it's definitely a different city. I think there are a lot of similarities and there are a lot of differences. You get I think you get all the aspects of a big city mushed into a smaller one. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but you get like all the, I guess, infrastructure you get in terms of like having outdoor stuff to do. There's an abundance of that. There's like a lake right there. There's good weather. There's hiking trails. There's all that type of stuff that you have in LA too. But I think it's more accessible in Austin. But then you get all the restaurants and more in Austin, in my opinion.
There is amazing.
And then in terms of nightlife, which is also a big selling point in my opinion of the school, is like, sure, we're all in Greek life, but I guess we can all agree it's a huge thing freshman, maybe sophomore year too, and then junior year, senior year, it starts to filter out as you like make your friends circles. As someone, when you would get older, you mature out of that stuff. And if I was in a city with nothing else to do than frat parties, I would want to kill myself. That would suck. And like even as a freshman in college, on Thursday nights and Saturday nights, like you're not going to, sure, you'll go to frat parties for sure, but like you also have a city where there's the most bars per capita in the country. Like there's a street called 6th Street, and it literally shuts down on Thursday through Saturday night. No cars allowed, and it's just bar after bar after bar. Like you go bar hopping like you've never been bar hopping before. And like there's one part of it called Dirty Sixth, which is where you'll go when you're like a freshman, which is where you get in with all your fake IDs and stuff. And then you don't get sick of it, because once you become 21, you move down to West 6th, which is where like the more upscale bars that you won't get into under 21, but like they're more like clubby and fun like that. And then you have other streets like Rainy Street, which is like this real estate developer like changed all these houses into these bars, and it's fucking awesome. I don't really know how to explain it even. There's just like an abundance of stuff, and like I think the city sells itself. Like I said, like Greek life or no Greek life. That I think, and that's like Texas or not Texas. Like I know we sound like we're selling Texas just because we all love it so much. We had a great experience, but I think a big thing, at least depending on your personality, but for me it was, when I was looking at schools, was, let's say you take away one big selling point, is there another selling point that will also make it a good school? And in UT's example, let's say you took away Greek life or you took away sports, like, will you still be happy there? Absolutely.
That was a pretty good answer.
Well said.
Well said. I don't know if there's really much else to say, but I think one thing that is really great about the city of Austin is the accommodations in terms of where you're going to live while you're a student at UT. Austin is a relatively new city in comparison to Dallas and San Antonio. There's a ton of development. There's a lot of construction around West Campus, which is probably where you would live if you went to UT. And the apartments and dorms are absolutely insane. Like on another level, you cannot compare it to any school. I had a movie theater in my room as a senior. Like in my room, I would just walk down the hall and had a movie theater with like reclining chairs. Everything was controlled by iPads. We had a hot tub. We had pool. I don't know. You guys can probably speak to it more. And the rent was probably like 15 or like 1,100 max, which is like unheard of in LA. So your experience living wise, you're going to live like a king or a queen or whatever at the school, just because, I work in real estate, and the real estate there is so much cheaper, and you're going to be paying so much less for so much more. And the whole city is like representative of that. There's so many new buildings, so many new restaurants. Austin's a big hub where, Apple is moving, a headquarters out there. There's a brand new Oracle building. So a ton of people end up staying just because, a ton of companies are moving to Austin too. And it's just like an overall such a beautiful city. So you have all these brand new buildings, and like what Elliot's saying, like there's so much nature. There are 2 lakes, you can go wakeboarding. You can just hang out on a boat if you know someone. It's like the coolest city in the world. Like I miss it all the time.
I think with a comparison to LA, you'll get pretty much everything you can get in LA. It's pretty much the same stuff, but it's a little more condensed. It's not as big of a city. You don't need to drive a lot to get places. But generally speaking, restaurants wise, entertainment wise, it's very similar. You're getting a lot of the same stuff.
Yeah.
I have a question. Besides like fried chicken and like other southern food there, what would you guys like to eat? Because Kyler talks about Pluckers all the time. And
Are you
what else?
Kyler's sister?
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah.
Tyler, are you home or in Austin?
Yeah, she's upstairs.
So besides like fried chicken and that type of food, what else is there to eat?
There's I mean,
there's-
not at all.
Okay, so I mean,
fried chicken and Pluckers is amazing.
yeah. But
But they
I
got
want to
like the best
go.
sushi restaurants, steakhouses, and then also like I'd almost call it like Austin food. Like there's all these fucking there's all these like interesting restaurants, like new concepts that they're like very experimental types of restaurants. I don't even know how to explain it, but I mean there's all types of food. I promise you. Food
It's not just fried chicken.
Yeah, food
One
is
of
not
my-
something you will lack in any
I was
sense.
completely vegan for like a whole year, and like I managed to stay alive. So you can do it. And there's a ton of like
Vegan in Austin?
restaurant. Yeah, I was vegan in Austin. You know, there's a ton of really great barbecue, and that's one of the selling points of Austin. Is like one of the best barbecue places in the world, Franklin's, which you'll probably go to when you're there. But it has everything. It's just like LA, and there are more and more places moving there. Like, you know, we have Creation here, they have Juiceland, and it's the same thing.
One of my favorite sushi places and Italian places in the world are in Austin, which I feel like you wouldn't really expect, but they have like high-end cuisine of every type, and they do it really well. Incredible steakhouses. They have everything.
Candace, I would say I've been there a couple times, and I am not a barbecue person. You're not gonna have a problem. It's a major U.S. city, so I've had great tacos there.
Incredible tacos.
Yeah, there are great bars.
Good to know. Thank you.
I have another question. So about housing, is it mandatory to live on campus sophomore year as well?
Not mandatory any year.
It's not.
it's
Yeah,
not-
I think, and that's a huge. That's
Yeah,
an
that's the best part.
piggybacking on
of
what
freshman
Alex
year.
was saying. That's a huge selling point. Is that you don't have to live on campus freshman year, and I also recommend you don't live on campus freshman year. There are off-campus freshman dorms, which are these properties that Alex is talking about that are brand new, upscale, like where you live like a king for the same price as if you lived on campus. And you also get that same freshman dorm feel where everyone in there is a freshman, everyone's meeting each other. There's like a meal plan and all that. But like you could go tan on the rooftop pool and, you know, it's stuff like that.
What other questions might there be about UT, about the transition from Milken, about size, classes, anything about academics?
I kind of wanted to ask about, as someone who's interested in business, like, is it really important to get into McCombs, or like, how do you see the difference between economics and business and scouting opportunities? And like, I'd love to hear about that.
I would, I'd say that it really depends on the student and how, eager you are to, go down the traditional recruiting avenue. I had a roommate who was a chemical engineer who's now doing consulting. And most of those guys come from McCombs, but it really just depends on, your focus junior and senior year when it comes down to recruiting season. It doesn't necessarily matter if you're economics or McCombs. You don't have to be in McCombs in order to go down the, traditional route of business school. I think Elliot mentioned that he has a business foundations certificate, right?
I'm doing the real estate certificate.
Okay, so yeah, I did the real estate certificate and business foundation certificate, and I wasn't in the business school. But so you don't necessarily have to. There are definitely different avenues to finding success post UT, even if you're not going straight to the business school.
Yeah, I'm in the business school right now. I'm majoring in finance. But like Alex and Elliot said, you you don't necessarily need to be a business student. Obviously, it depends exactly what you want to do, which I mean, you're not expected to know yet. But for that reason, also, like, I didn't get straight into McCombs. I transferred in after my sophomore year. I'm not going to lie to you and say that it's easy to transfer in, but it's something that's very doable if you're willing to, like, really apply yourself academically. Like, obviously, there's, shortcuts and ways that you can, take certain classes, like community college, for example, to, like, boost your GPA. There's, like, a multitude of things that you can do. But at the end of the day, like, you need to be getting really good grades, and it's definitely something that's possible. I wouldn't really, unless you're very, very highly qualified, I wouldn't really recommend personally applying straight into McCombs, because I think it really brings down your chances of getting into the school. Again, it really it depends on the person. For me, I knew I wanted to go to Texas and knew that I'd kind of make it work, and I wanted to increase my chances of getting in. And for that reason, I actually applied into a bizarre major. I applied into Middle Eastern cultures and languages. I'm not even lying. I wrote my college essay about being a Persian Jew who was really in touch with his Judaism and culture, and my parents are Persian, and went on about that. And like, it got me into the school because nobody applies to that major. Got me in, and then I applied. I ended up applying to McCombs. So that's definitely an option as well.
Okay, thank you.
I have another question. As a school, like, academically, what is it like? Really hard, really easy? Because I don't know.
Depends on
Depends on your major.
Teachers.
Depends on the major. Teachers, rate my professor will be your best friend at any school you go to.
Huge, yeah.
And to explain that, there's, like, for any type of general ed or any course, there's usually multiple professors offering it, and majority of times they have different grading distributions. They're known to be easier, known to be harder. You try your best to get into the easy ones. But I mean, it's like, it's a great, well-known school, and that being said, it's not a walk in the park to get a degree. But I'm having all of us had the time of our lives there, and we weren't, struggling to go out, struggling to do anything like that. I think what I also like about it is it's a work hard, play hard school. Everyone who got in, and especially the Texas kids, like, just to make it a little, I know it seems really hard to get into out of state, and it is, but it's even harder for the Texans to get in. Way more Texans apply, and they have, like, requirements where they have automatic admissions and stuff, where if you're in the top 7% of your class, you get automatic admissions, and it's not easy to be the top 7% in a class of over 1,000 people. So the Texans that go there are really smart. So what I like about it is that my friends are all cool and fun, but they're also really driven. They're not idiots. They're not, like, drinking themselves to death and, like, have no ambitions in life. Like, all my friends at school are doing ambitious things, have big plans to graduate, and to do things afterwards. Like, I'm partying with smart people.
Alex,
So,
do you mind touching on graduation? And you came back to LA. Can you talk about your job search and what UT helped you with, what they might not have helped you with that you had to do on your own, things like that?
Sure. I would say, one of the biggest resources of UT is the alumni network. There's it's a huge school, so there's a lot of people, all over the country. I would say that in Los Angeles in particular, it was difficult to find people who were, doing what I wanted to do in LA specifically. I would say a lot of my friends who, wanted to stay in Texas in general, like Dallas, Houston or Austin, had, somewhat better luck in terms of, recruiting for positions out there. But, it really depends on the student. It depends, how driven you are at the end of the day. I feel like I definitely could have utilized the resources better. I wasn't really forward thinking. I was Yeah, I don't really know how to explain it, but there are definitely more resources out there that I didn't utilize that maybe Kobe can speak to or Ellie can speak to. But I think that the strongest thing is just the alumni network. Like my friends here consist of, about half UT and half, Milken / LA people. So I think there's strength in numbers there just coming from a big university. But, I didn't really have too many issues, getting a job after school with a degree from UT. I think it really comes down to just connecting with people over an interview or something like that, whether or not, you go to the same school as that person or went to the same school as that person. But I would say the biggest thing that helps a lot of people that I knew was, that alumni network for people who were looking for jobs in Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, New York even. But we're just starting to form this Los Angeles, UT community. I'm the first one that I know who went to Milken for many years. Kobe and Elliot are two others. So, as we start to increase in numbers, I think it's going to be more accessible if you're looking for positions in LA as it's starting to become more of a mainstream school.
I can speak to the recruiting process a little bit in terms of McCombs. I don't know how many of you guys are considering kind of doing business, but I think that McCombs definitely does a really good job of providing those kind of resources. So, for example, in your first or second year, you're required to take a business administration class, which kind of gives you a lot of, it's like a BA 101 class, which gives you a lot of like interview experience, and they do like a lot of mock interviews and kind of shape you up. And and later on, like it comes senior year when you're recruiting and you want to, let's say you have an interview scheduled, like they'll work with you, they'll kind of help you out. There's a lot of resources there. There's also something called Recruit McCombs, which is like a database essentially where a lot of companies who are looking to hire from McCombs or from UT in general will kind of post listings out there, and you can send out your resume, send out a cover letter. So then kind of to what Alex was saying, it's not hard to get somebody to kind of respect a UT degree, whether it's business or not. It's a very well respected school. Whether I would say, like he said, it is a little bit easier I have a lot of friends who are kind of staying in Austin because there's a lot of resources available here, but for Texas students. But I think, again, like he said, at the end of the day, it's a lot about the networking you make, just kind of the people you meet, and then leveraging those. But it shouldn't be too much of a problem.
Yeah, and Dean, back to your question earlier, you asked, I think, about, Macomb specifically in the business school. So a lot of the resources that Kobe had in that way, I didn't necessarily have myself, but you have to take it upon yourself during this recruiting process, when you're senior, junior, to, find success if you're in Macombs or not. But, in his case, he's found that to be, a successful program for him.
Also, they do a lot of like job fairs. I know that a lot of those are open to real estate students as well.
Yeah.
There's a ton of job fairs constantly kind of going on for you to go out and meet people at companies, create networks with them, create connections with them, and then hopefully try to leverage those for different job opportunities.
And I'm an advertising major, but I'm not pursuing advertising in my career. But I'm doing the real estate certificate, and which is through the real estate center which is in Macombs, and I've gotten lucky I didn't know it was going to be that. I didn't know I was going to have as many resources as I did. The real estate center is super, on top of their game. There's massive career fairs all the time. I don't know, twice a semester, and then there's networking events from like industry professionals that they come and have guest speakers, and these are all extracurriculars that you can throw on your resume too. Just like stuff to build your resume and, network and meet people. And then from my experience, anytime I've had an interview with like a position that I wasn't as familiar with, within a day's notice, I can contact my advisor in the real estate center, set up a mock interview, get connected with UT alumni that either worked at that company or who have similar positions. And then back to the whole school spirit thing, which we were kind of touching on when we were talking about sports, but there is like a great sense of pride with the UT alumni network. Everyone, I mean, I can't speak for all 40,000 of the students, but I like to say majority of them had a very positive experience, and the school spirit kind of like bands everyone together. Everyone like
For sure.
is really proud to be like a Longhorn. So everyone is always trying to hire Longhorns that went to UT, and like Moshe was saying, strength in numbers. Strength in numbers. There's so many of us. A lot of times they're UT alumni that work at a company that you're looking to work for, and they're always trying to band us together, have UT have a good rep, hire UT kids. So I guess
You look out for each other. UT alumni definitely look out for UT students, and the alumni network is definitely very, very strong.
I asked another question about internship opportunities during college. I do want to be sensitive to the time also. So maybe this will be our last question, unless there's one other one that any of the juniors have, but go ahead. Any internship opportunity during college?
My last summer internship was for a real estate developer in LA, a company called Red Car Properties. One of the president, and I actually got that job through the real estate center. The president of the company was a UT alumni, went to work at Blackstone in New York, which is one of the biggest private equity firms in the world, and then started a company back in LA a couple years ago. So I got a job there, and that was a great experience. And then also while I've been a student, I got my real estate license. So I've been a real estate agent broker while I've been a student, and I've been working for this company called Austin City Realty. So that was a good experience too. It gave me a lot of exposure to like the Austin market, a lot of networking opportunities, and then also a huge resume booster, a good way to make money while I was in college. Kobe, Kyler, Moshe,
any other internships or jobs, Kyler, Kobe, or Alex, worth mentioning?
I had one last summer at a real estate firm in LA also. I didn't get that through like a UT alumni connection or anything, but yeah, it was a positive experience. I'm not gonna go into the field of real estate, but I still liked it.
Great.
Yeah, I had an internship in New York at a real estate firm after my junior year. I would definitely recommend, looking at opportunities maybe outside of your college town or even hometown, maybe just for a summer. It was a really good experience for me. I learned a lot about, the city of New York and what I was actually looking for in a city. After the experience, I didn't end up going there. New York might be a little bit too crazy for me, but yeah.
Great.
I actually spent 2 summers in Austin.
Yeah, I spent 1 summer in Austin.
Yeah, and that was awesome. I loved it. Like I was doing summer school, and like working a part-time job. Actually, I was working. You guys Fat Sal's? They have Fat Sal's here. They had one. It closed down. I worked part-time as a server there, and then was doing summer school, and like was living with my boys, and it was awesome. Weather is beautiful. It's so hot out. Like ton to do. Go to the lake. Go to the river. Like it was great. I didn't want to leave.
Kyler, any last word?
I was just going to say, like Kobe, I had like a real estate internship last summer that I didn't get through UT, but I'm in that same real estate program that Elliot is in, and I was supposed to use it to get an internship for this summer, but I mean, we'll see how that turns out.
I threw my number in there. If any of you guys have any questions, feel free to text or call me.
Thank you.
I know we're ending this now.
Yes, I want to be sensitive
You
to our
guys should go to
alumni.
UT. It's the best.
I want to be sensitive to the alumni and for you guys volunteering to help out. I really appreciate it. Are there any other last pressing questions that you guys wanted answered? I have to get to another call at 7, but I could always leave this room and let you guys continue your dialogue. Are we feeling good?
What frat should we rush?
Me too.
Whatever you want.
There's so many.
We'll figure it out.
So many.
You'll figure it out, and you'll find a place where you fit in best.
Yeah.
It'll work out.
On that subject, though, I think, fraternity or not, you're going to find your community. I did student government. I didn't think I was interested in student government. I was on the board for Chabad. I didn't think I was going to do that. And, I was also in a fraternity. So you find your niche, whether it's in a fraternity or it's in something, academic based. you're going to have different groups of people that you meet that have different qualities and, from Texas or not. And, even though it is a big school, you're going to find your niche there for sure.
And the kids in your frat also won't be your only friends by any means.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not that type of school.
All right. Well, I cannot start my other room until I leave this one. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate your help. You're alumni. And if anybody, any of the juniors need information, you have Elliot's cell phone, and I can get you the other guys' information if they said anything that particularly sparked your interest. So just let me know. Thank you guys so much.
Reach out.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you guys.
Thank you.